Hey guys, it's Gus. And 2 years ago, I made a video, or I made two videos, because there was a topic going around that making supports was expensive. And I didn't believe that to be true. Making supports was actually much, much cheaper than making a DPS. And, you know, even after I made the videos, people didn't, it didn't really change the mind of everyone. But some people are like, oh shit, because if you're doing your job as the tank and running all your debuffs, there's really not much more you can do for the team. The ceiling is set. Unlike DPS, the more damage you do, the more you're helping the group. And to do that, you have to spend a lot. And the more you spend, the stronger your tune can be. So you can make a tank, an effective tank, fairly cheap. So what I did is I never played tank ever. I made a brand new tank. I made it as cheap as humanly possible, and I soloed Tom. And Tom had kind of been past its heyday, but it was still a challenge to solo it. It was for me, anyways, because I didn't even know how to block. And then I did Zerial, and then I haven't touched my tank since. The tank I have has ran a total of 3 dungeons: one Tom, one Zerial, and an RTQ shortly after, where the host was like, "Please switch to your tank." And I did the RTQ where you don't need a tank except to queue in there. And I did that, and I haven't ran the tank in 2 years or touched it. So what I did is I took all this gear I had on all these tunes from running dungeons, and I put it on the tank. And the only AD I spent was I bought the defense armor reinforcement kits for the left side and the stamina regeneration reinforcement kits for the right side of our gear page. So I didn't really spend anything, and you might see the build at the end of this. I didn't even upgrade any companions. I took all the insignias I had for my DPS and put it on here. So they were all DPS insignias. I took the collars for my DPS, put on here. I used the artifacts that were, that you could claim on all your accounts except the Taroka. I had to swap that for my DPS over. It was, it took me almost nothing to make this tank. And remind you, I've ran 3 dungeons ever on my tank, so I don't know how to play it. And I didn't really spend anything, and it was still overpowered. It could be much lower item level and still tank this dungeon effectively. And as you're watching this, you're probably laughing, especially if you're a tank, of how enormously bad I
Oh,
played.
I'm looking at.
And what was cool about this was 4 elements. Thank you, everybody, especially you, the deer, for hosting. They're a
Girl
guild that I
B
never
I.
really heard much of until this module, and they are kicking
Oh,
ass. So
I'll
four
see. I'll see. I
elements.
know what it looks
Thank you
like. Yeah.
again. The deer, I believe, is their guild leader, and they've invited me to a lot of their runs, even though I've let them down multiple times. I am dog shit in this dungeon, even on my DPS. Uh, but we're going back to the tank, and you're gonna see a ton of mistakes. For example, they were telling me when to use my daily, which is
Yeah.
the
Oh, that's easy.
phalanx. When the tanks want to use their phalanx or whatever defensive daily they have on hypo, because hypo
Okay.
can
Yeah.
still
I'll do that.
kill a
Thank you.
max item level DPS, even if all 10 players are in the circle, just because DPS are usually maximizing their builds and using gears that lower their crit
All
avoidance
right.
and hit points. So they're very, very squishy the stronger they get in here, especially when you're like me running all the covenants. So my defensive
Come
stats are
on.
in the very low 20s. I think one of them might actually be 19%.
Oh,
And
that's too
this
late.
wasn't the first try. I died a number of times and wiped the group. For
Okay.
example, I got pushed
Okay. I
back
see what
by
you're
a
saying.
ball.
Icon.
They got loose, and then right as that happened, a scream happened, and so I got double bounced backwards.
Okay.
And then another time, because I'm not used to doing runes, the deer, was calling and
Killing
was
you.
like, okay, get on the runes. And I got on my
I love
rune.
that.
Well, the third Zolkar wasn't dead yet when I did that. So I totally screwed over the group. They were very patient with me. I think we got it on our fourth try. Um, I did die in
Hey,
this,
the
I
deer. What
think in
piece are you going after?
P7,
Do you need?
twice
Oh, nice.
during the tank busters while that extra damage is going on. I was just not built. I think my my stats were really, really low, and I do not have a tank build whatsoever. I just put on all the gears from this dungeon that I've gotten that were on my HR that could be used by the Guardian fighter. So I put those on. I was trying to show my gears before the run started, but being the fourth attempt or third attempt,
Oh,
something like
really?
that,
Okay.
I didn't start recording until the run started. But I think I show them at the end. Very low defensive stats. Absolute, complete, horrible gameplay on my part. I have no idea how to play a tank. And it was still really, really easy. Here I am
Okay.
overlapping, right? I tried to do a KV right there to help protect whoever I was overlapping. Because I don't care if I die. As a tank, you can die 5 times. As long as you don't die a sixth time before the dungeon ends, you're doing your job. That's how easy it is to tank. And the reason I'm bringing this up is this dungeon and the last few, going back to even before MGR, the hardest roles to fill in this game is usually DPS, um, because DPS, a lot of these dungeons are designed in a way where we have to get maximum damage in a short period of time. Because the longer the fight goes on, the more bad stuff happens. And once one bad thing happens, it just starts cascading. So generally, groups want to have damage dealers doing a ton of damage. And luckily, they invite me, even though I don't do a ton of damage. But if they weren't inviting me because I wasn't doing a ton of damage, I could fall back on being a tank. And this module is
First
very
sniper? Okay.
unusual. Very unusual. Going back to when they really started making
Oh, okay.
trials, and I say that as Tom because the whole game changed with Tom. Before that, you could have one DPS in one phase, basically every boss in the game. But when Tom started, the whole game changed. It went from group buffs to gameplay, and tanks were always the center of every single trial. Literally,
Oh, P5? Okay.
if the tank failed in
You
Crown of
died.
Keldagon and the new revised Tiamat and Tom and Zerial, MGR, Demo. Well, Demo not so much. Um, they never really did that, make it a hard dungeon. But basically, every single trial they put out, the
This one
tank was the center
is
of the dungeon.
Sun. Oh, my
If you
son
were
wants to
hosting
know.
a
Okay.
dungeon, you were 8 for 10 and needed two tanks. There's a
Thank
good
you.
chance that the dungeon wasn't
Oh,
going to be
you will. Thank
successful
you. I'm coming.
because the you got the tanks and
Oh,
built
it
around the
is?
tanks because you needed them,
Yay.
and they had to be really good
And a lot of mobs
because they
respawn.
had to
Okay, great.
know. Most tanks have to know every mechanic inside and out. They have to know when to block and when to take it to the face so they don't deplete their stamina because the dungeons were designed around the tank holding aggro for the whole group. And this trial kind of changed that. In this trial, the tank just has to be there for a couple spots. I'm taking runes in here, but anybody can take the runes, really.
Where is
When
that
I was
this one
trying the
right here at
first
the
time,
boss? This one?
if I didn't have the healer next to me, I just died within
Okay.
seconds because I don't have
Fork, I got
anything
it up
on
now.
to
That's
help keep me
horn,
alive.
fork.
So
Okay.
anybody can do
Okay.
it. But generally speaking, the
Okay.
tanks have been the ones doing it because
Let me go get
you
you.
want the DPS to
Wait.
go to all three
This can't be
Zolkers
too hard.
to help increase the burn. In this run, it was really
That's the
surprising. I
perfect
was
thing to
getting
do.
aggro quite often on the boss, which doesn't actually happen a lot when we're fighting these dungeons. It's very common for the tanks not to
Yeah,
ever
this one
have
right here.
aggro for most of the fight. And
Oh,
it doesn't
after the fork?
matter. But I'm
I'm doing this
attacking
one? Okay.
constantly because I want to make
Okay.
sure
Thank you,
that
man.
the Vistani and Grace Ring are always procced. And so in
Yay.
here,
And my
for the
phone
group
tapped
buffs,
out.
I
Hold
was
on.
using the Vistani
Thank you.
set, the Grace Ring, armor break, but it was only at 7.5% because I my companion wasn't. I didn't have any celestial companions. You don't have to do any of that with the tank. Um, I was using the necrotic roar, but I was going to use swarm. Uh, Pack tactics. I basically had every single buff I could for the group, except I don't have the AP chest, and that requires you running content and farming currency. And in I think North Dark Reaches or Menzo. So I don't have the chest because I've never played this character in content. I was gonna make a Guardian Fighter DPS, so I spent a lot of time doing it because the damage output of the Guardian Fighter is very. Most people don't realize how good of a DPS this class could be, or it has been in previous mods. I don't know about this mod, but it's really hard to play to get a lot of damage compared to most classes because you have to be very up close and personal. And you don't really have a dodge to get out
Okay.
of attacks quickly, so you have to play really really good if you want to do big damage as a Guardian Fighter DPS. So I found out a lot of stuff during this run. When I did Phalanx, I tried to cast my mount power, and you can't. So you're basically stunned out of all animations while you're in Phalanx. I didn't know how to get out of it, so I was just standing there like a tard, even after the mitigation occurred. So what I found out is you had to press L3 and block to get out of it. And then when I was in my blocking stance, I couldn't figure out how to do anything because I was in a blocking stance, and I had to figure out you had to press L3 to get out of it. So I was just messing up everything, and that's on the PS4 controller. It's quite funny. And you saw at the beginning of this video, I was getting words of encouragement, because at this point, this late with this trial being out for so long,
I don't
nobody
have
wants to come in
I
here
don't
with a
I don't
trainee.
have my daily done
Everybody
yet.
just wants to farm the shit out of it to get that one piece of missing gear that they've been trying to get for hundreds, if not thousands of runs. It's
Oh, I didn't
pretty
get far
absurd
enough
what they've
away.
done to this trial. But it's still a
Oh
fun
man,
trial.
sorry
It's
guys.
just that so much can happen where one person makes a mistake and all nine people have to wipe. It's a very unforgiving dungeon. Um, and usually, if a tank falls off early in the run or dies, it's a wipe for everybody because it's pretty hard to solo tank this dungeon.
Okay.
We've done it a number of times, but generally, when you're going into P7, and what you do there is when the tank buster comes, it's going to go on a DPS usually, and they just have to take it out of the group and take a death for the team, but they'll still
I have
complete.
daily. You want me to
But
use
early
it?
in the fight, it's not
Okay,
worth the
daily's out.
squeeze. So again, thank you for Elements for the invite. Didier it asked me they were short of DPS, and I said, "Do you mind if I play a tank?" And I think it was Frenchie who was going to be the tank, and he swapped the DPS just for me, and he was really being helpful, and so was Ray. Thank you, Ray and Frenchie. They were giving me tips. I didn't know half the shit they were talking about. They were saying all these powers, and Ray Tag did tell me about Iron Warrior using that before the tank buster before you dug in. That was really helpful. But I was lucky. The paladin healer, I think, realized how utterly useless I was and didn't know what I was doing. So I was getting some really nice blue shields there. If you notice in all these mini bosses and stuff, I'm trying to get up there because
Okay,
the
I
debuff
guess this one's going to
from the
be.
Vistani set
It
and
is
the
the girl.
Grace Ring.
It's a
Those
guy.
are really really big buffs, and it's really disappointing. Really disappointing. When we're hosting, we see tanks that are like 115, 120k item level using like the battle pass set, which are completely useless. It's just it shows a complete lack of not knowing what's really going on in the game. And your first goal as a tank is to survive, and once you can do that, your second goal is to learn the mechanics and position yourself perfectly for the DPS and healers to do their thing. And once you get to that, you want to
Yeah, this
support the
one right
group
here. Yep.
because you can only if you survive, you survive. You can't
So I was
survive,
going that way.
harder, and you can only position so much. So after that, it's really about how much you can provide the team. And four elements, generally speaking, it's really fun to run with them because they'll have four of their supports running the AP chest. It is fun. You're always getting full. See all those orbs on the ground, right? Those
Okay.
little orange orbs.
There's a
And
lot
four
of
element
monsters.
runs,
Be
they're
careful.
everywhere. And I love it. There's always one support though running the
I'm on it.
debuff chest piece. That's usually on. Well, it has
I'm
to
on
be on
it.
either the warlock or the bard. And there's generally a bard healer in the group, and the bard
Yay.
healer is by default going to wear that. It's the best
Oh,
piece of
okay.
equipment in the entire game. There isn't a better piece in the game, and there's no equipment that's stronger or does more for the group. So it's kind of sad when we see a warlock healer or a bard healer not using that, because the whole group the whole group's gonna suffer for it. Unless they're trying to get like solo heal or something like that, then it's understandable. But I don't know about that. So all the mistakes you see, go ahead and comment below, laugh at me. I'll take it. I don't care.
Right.
What I did show
P
here
seven.
though is how easy it is to make a tank in this
Yay.
game and do the latest content. And
Yeah.
a lot of people need tanks still because there's not a lot of them. And again, like 2 years ago, I'm trying to show that the barriers to entry of being a
Okay.
tank
Okay.
are
Okay.
very, very low. If you want to be an effective tank that gets the group through the dungeon, you don't have to spend a lot of AD. So if you're new to the game and you want to get to end game, which means doing the latest content, and you play a tank, you have way more chances of getting in than you do as a DPS because people with max gear who haven't done thousands and thousands
Oh.
of
Okay.
dungeons are usually doing way less damage than an end game
I
damage
definitely
dealer
will.
is.
We'll see.
It's always been that way. There's every so
Yep.
often
No
that a
biggie.
newcomer will come in
Yeah.
and they're just so damn good at video games that they pick it up. But generally, most DPS get really strong over time by running the content over and over countless times, learning every chance they can to sneak an
I
attack.
go daily on this
And
one.
yeah, I
Yep.
just took a death
Daily's
stack. We're
up.
in P7. I think
Oh,
we're
I'm
going to take a
blocking.
death stack
Go
again
daily.
pretty soon. But it doesn't
There we go.
matter.
I think I
Because in
got it.
most content, when you died, that means somebody was going to die immediately after because you lose the aggro. But in this dungeon, if you don't have aggro, it doesn't matter. Nobody gives a shit because this boss doesn't really target anybody at all. Oh, I need to get in that. Look at me not getting in that hypo. Look at, I have no idea what I'm doing. I probably killed a couple people. Actually, I think I stayed out. The deer said it. Stay out. You got a tank buster coming, and he didn't want me bringing the tank buster to the group. Actually, so I've taken one death. I think I'm gonna take one more. I think I finished this dungeon with 2 deaths. Because right after this run, I went to DPS and I killed the group again. I felt so bad because playing a tank felt like playing a whole new dungeon. Everything was different. It just felt awkward. Hey, baby girl. And I had a lot of fun. So thanks again for Elements. Hopefully this inspires some people to make a tank knowing how easy it is. I'm going to show my build, I think, here in just a few seconds. So you can see how easy it is. I'm wearing a ton of
I
item
got it.
level inflation that you can take off. It's very common for tanks that don't have the highest level item level gears to just get their item level high enough to get in this dungeon and then run this dungeon at like 95k because it doesn't really matter as long as you're playing a tank properly by blocking properly and using your blocks and position yourself
Yay!
right.
Thanks for letting
You can
me
probably do
join
this
you,
as a
poor
90k
elements. That's pretty
tank
sweet.
very easily. Look at those all those beautiful orbs
Thanks, poor
down there.
elements. Woo
I was
woo.
expecting for the CA helm to
So,
finally drop on a class that wouldn't need it, and I would have said, "Oh,
defense was
look at
86,
that!"
awareness
And
68,
I've been trying to get the
teleporting
CA helmet for
47.
a couple months now, and just pissing me off. I'm going over all my gear. None of those gears matter. They're all dog
Fireproof
shit.
volcano,
It's just because I didn't know how to
necrotic
play it. But
roar,
there's the
attack
pack tactics, the
tactics,
necrotic roar, which nobody likes to
drips,
use, but a
armor
support has to
break.
use it.
It's
Armor
only
break, only set
7.5%.
half percent because my
Ranged
companions
AP
are all
chest plate. This could go
low
anywhere.
item level.
Hey, poor element.
Uh,
Thank you guys.
None of those
Appreciate you
gears
all.
are probably helping me
Yeah,
survive
man.
one iota.
Let me see.
So please
Yeah,
go and laugh
thank
at
you,
my
dude.
gears
That was
below. I
awesome.
don't care. That wasn't the point. The point was to show how easy it is, regardless of how shitty your build was. Stay classy, Neverwinter. See you soon.